what's up? Like, I thought he was so nice, and he's just like, so aggressive.
The real Brian. I had the idea from watching like other people's videos. ACG's last video, he was talking about Last of Us 2 and everybody, the whole Last of Us 2 thing about the embargo and not holding, having to only do part of the game and you're not really being able to review the whole thing. And I was like, yeah, it seems to be a real interesting thing. Like, do you sacrifice being able to review a game early versus being able to tell like how you would really feel about the whole truth about the game? Because there is mixed reactions about the game, but at the same time, if you're not allowed to talk about the parts you didn't like about the game, then how are you giving your full account of the game? And it seems like they already knew that most people wouldn't like that other part of the game, which is why they said don't talk about it.
It's a real pickle of a question. And I would say if you aren't able to share your real opinion on the game, your review is pointless. We're just putting it out. Now, there's going to be degrees in which this applies, right? Like if you're a new upcomer and someone's like, hey, here's a review on a game, and you're like, this is the first, I get to be early access. Like, as long as it's understood and communicated, like, hey, this was provided, hey, this was early access, hey, etc. You should know these things about it, and you should know these things about me. Then the viewer can take that into account and apply that to the review. That is one piece of the puzzle. But at the same time, if you're sitting here saying, hey, Brian, you can review this game, but you can't talk about 60% of it, or hell, you can't talk about 5% of the game, what good is that? I mean, because I guess essentially my question to you is, what's the purpose of a review in the first place? Right,
because for me, it's like, if I'm looking at somebody's review, I want to know like the bad and the good, and if it's worth my time even playing the game. But if you can only tell me the good parts, and you can't tell me too much of the bad, or as the story goes on, you can't be like, as the story goes on, it takes a turn for the worse, and yada yada yada.
So how does that play in also for storied reviews? Because in some ways, the story is the kind of the reason that you play and experience it, and it's sacred. Final Fantasy is a good one. Last of Us 1 and 2. People have these emotional connections, these relationships with these characters. It is protected, right? No one's interest, like at least at the start, like same thing. Like, oh, no spoilers. Don't ruin anything for me. I want to experience that, kind of going in blind. So how does the question that you asked, is it different? Is it a different answer, or is it handled, or would you handle it differently when it comes to the story? Like, if the story is 90% of the reason why you're playing the game,
I mean, like,
what's the review for?
Right. Well, the review for a game or even for a movie, like, there's movie reviews that are telling you like how the movie is played, how the actors are doing and stuff like that don't spoil the story, but you will still be like, oh, the story was written badly or something like that. It's the same thing in games. Like, you can still say all the aspects of games. Like, most of my reviews I try to keep them spoiler free, so you can still say every aspect of a game that would make it good or bad without ruining a story. Like, you can say, oh, the story, I didn't really care too much for the story that much, but the gameplay was there. You can still give people like, okay, well, maybe I like the story, but I know I like the gameplay because my favorite reviewer or whatever like the gameplay type thing. You know what I'm saying? So, but if you're not allowed to talk about even gameplay elements because of an embargo, then what's the whole point of doing the review in the beginning? Everybody should just be like, nah, I can't talk about the game.
So what's the solution? I mean, because at the end of the day, like, there is a value in terms of here's what you need to know about it. But would it be better to preserve any kind of number? Is our critique of the process and the embargo versus the integrity of the review tied to a score, a numeric score, as opposed to, hey, this is what I was able to play, this is what I was able to experience, and this is how I feel about it? Like, change it up, call it a first impressions video over like a full-on review, right? Like, that's what
right, because that's what it is. Right. You're not doing the whole game, so it's not really a full review of the game. But that's another thing too. You bring up score. It's like, I know you talked about how some game companies' bonuses are tied to like Metacritic scores and stuff like that. So that kind of almost plays into the hand of the game developer. If you're telling people you can only review this much of the game, now everybody's giving the good scores, and now you're going to get good bonuses on your score because you got, it's still, that integrity part is still missing of it.
Yeah. I think reviews are kind of not as valuable as they used to be, especially in terms of live streams. I think the live stream is more what people want, that real-time interaction, and that's just where I see it going. I don't think reviews are dead, but when we look at the numbers, they're definitely not up, in terms of that. And that's where, like, I think it's just a breeding ground for drama. Look at Last of Us 2. It's not a game I'm going to play. It's not a game that I was looking forward to. I'm not negative against the game for any reason. I'm not positive on it. It's just not my kind of game. I touched the first one. My daughter died. I said, F that. I just can't do that.
Right.
And I know that's a part of the story, not anything I want to, live through in that way. So that's just kind of that's my thought on it. I know we disagree on that because I've put out a video, you put out a response, but go ahead.
Well, yeah, I played The Last of Us, the first one, and it was all right, but I never finished it, and I just never had an interest in the second one, probably because I never finished the first one. But that wasn't like something that I jumped all over it. But at the same time, like, I can understand where people are coming from, where they may be upset of how a story went, right? Like, I'm a big Star Wars fan and Star Trek fan and all that stuff, and I can get upset at how the story went, but I'm not going to lash out against people that agree with it. And it's like, if you look at like the critics all together, right? If you look like food critics and movie critics and car critics or any other critics, like gaming critics are like the only ones that actually go after each other for their opinion on a game. Like, you have somebody that dislikes a movie and somebody that likes a movie, but you don't see the YouTube movie critics going after the mainstream movie critics talking about they don't know what they're talking about, yada yada yada, and vice versa. And you don't see food critics.
Gaming is more intimate, though. Gaming is far more intimate than a movie.
That's from the standpoint of the player, but not the reviewer. Like, the
reviewer has to be a player, though.
The reviewer of movies, they go way deeper. So I feel like they have a deeper connection into how a movie is being made. Most movie review critics, like the deeper critics,
I haven't found a movie review critic that I agree with.
That's what I'm saying. They're like, how they look at movies are a lot different than how, a gamer looks at games, I guess.
Right. And then what's their point? I'm still going to go see the movie. Like, right. the cost of entry for that is much lower. Like, I've always believed that a person's personal review is the only review that matters, especially when it comes to games. And that's why, like, you don't see many reviews from me. I don't find a value in it. I found a value in a guide that's beyond outside the story. Like, here's what you need to know about the game. Here's the gameplay elements. Here's how you handle this, and go. And you should try this game out. And then let's talk about the game. I'm happy to have a review that's like this.
Right.
Hey,
right.
Gameplay. Let's play this game, and then let's talk about it. That's the kind of review I think that the industry needs to move to. Skill Up kind of redefined kind of the review, but now it's still becoming where they were using his review against like industry reviews and trying to basically justify their own individual costs. I'm trying to justify the reason I purchased this or the reason I'm mad at it. And I'm not saying that they're wrong in that emotion feeling, but it is an emotional response to that. So the review in and of itself is just the same thing, a drama. It's not a conversation. I think playing the game and then talking about the game and having different perspectives about like the different areas, that's what reviews need to be. And that's what we need to create. Congratulations.
Yeah, let's do it. We're doing it right now.
Volunteered you, and we'll get Chris. We're all we're going to do Game Club, and we're going to play a game, and then we're going to sit down and we're going to review that game.
We'll think of a cool name. The Gamer Enclave.
I think Chris and I actually been talking about Game Club.
Game Enclave. Game Club.
Game Enclave. Oh, Game Club. It's like just like a book club. Like, okay, like, hey, we played this.
Yeah.
We finished this. We played it up to a point, and then it's like, I stopped playing, and this is why I stopped playing. Like, I think that's where reviews should go. And I think that's what we should create, because there hasn't been a review structure that I have found enjoyable. I enjoy ACG. I enjoy Skill Up. I enjoy like their styles. But I think at the end of the day, a player's review is the most important. Go ahead.
I think Skill Up and ACG, like, they're both cool, but I feel like personally,
Throw shade, man. Just throw shade. Like,
look, no, I don't have any shade against him, right? Like, my whole idea is similar. Like, I wish I can do writing like Skillup does, where he goes into this whole painting of how the game plays and how when you're fighting, the colors look like some painting by Bob Ross or something. I don't know, and have the humor of ACG. But I just kind of like be like, I like to do like the Angry Joe minus the skits. Like, Angry Joe's reviews would be so much shorter if he cut out a lot of the skits in there. And I would like to just straight up go to the point and be like, this is what I thought about it. This is how I felt about this, this, and this. Then I'll ask the question to the viewers, like, if you played it, what do you think about it? And I like to add in that whole, like, ACG, the part I like about him. And I didn't even know about ACG until your podcast and stuff like that. But I had the same idea, like, is it worth, you know, buying the game? Is it worth my time even buying or renting or whatever? Because that's how I look as a regular working dude. Can I afford this game? Was it worth me buying it or anything?
It's not just the affording of the game. It's the time.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's my time playing it.
You know, it's like, hey, it cost me $60. Am I going to get 60 hours out of it? Exactly. Of joy. You know, it's like, okay.
Or is it worth, or right, did I feel like my entertainment was worth the amount of money I put into it? Exactly. Yeah. Like for Minecraft, I'm like, you know, it's like $30. They're gonna have more into it. It's free on Game Pass. If you don't have Game Pass, it's still worth trying because you're going to get a lot of playtime out of it, and it's only like $30. So like, if you like those type of games, but for like reviews, that's probably better. Like you said, to have a discussion, even if it's on the game, maybe like you said, a book club, a game club, to everybody gives their opinions, and then when more people are giving their opinions, especially if there'll be varied opinions, you'll have a reaction from the audience watching that. You know, they'll maybe they'll agree with you, maybe they'll agree with Chris, you know, and there'll be more conversation about the game instead of just pitting people against each other like it is now, which is,
I don't know, it's just people have some, I guess, energy. Definitely plenty to be frustrated about and more.
But it was just weird because it was like a big thing, and I didn't like make a video about it or think about making a video about it then when it first came out. Like, when they first talked about the embargo and it was crazy, and then IGN with this 10/10 score, and then everybody was like, "Is IGN getting paid?" And then you had people make a video about it. I think Alana Paris and ACG and Skillup all made videos talking about how the industry doesn't pay people to make videos and what that's all about, and stuff like that. And it's just like, why even have I can understand the embargo being like, all right, you can play this game, but when the embargo is lifted, then you drop your full review, not an embargo that says you can only play 3% of a game and then drop a review. That just doesn't, you might as well just give me a demo of the game. And
I totally agree.
It's just weird.
Yeah, 100%, man, 100%.
See, who do you think is affected more, like, from game reviews then, if that's the case? Like, we talked about how, you know, there's bonuses affected to it. We talked about players being more intimate into games, into gaming, and the critic or the game reviewers play in it. Who do you think is more affected by embargoes? Or
I think the buyer.
The buyer.
Yeah.
Why do you say that?
Depends. Well, with the caveat, when can the buyer buy? You know, it's like, when is the embargo up? If the embargo is up a week before the launch, and that gives plenty of people to talk about it and decipher it and break it down. It's like, then you know what you're going into, and they're able to share their thoughts. Cool. If the embargo is up on day and date, like, you know, it's like, oh, maybe wait. Don't let hype suck you in and then be disappointed. It could be great, but ultimately, like, just kind of pay attention to when that embargo is, and then make your decision as whether or not to jump in. Then that's just my perspective, if that makes any kind of sense.
Well, I would say also the customers are affected, but I think the reason is just because of the lack of information that they're getting from the reviews, not the necessarily. Customers? Yeah, the buyers okay, cool. Of the game. Yeah. I was gonna say, like, that sounds like what I was saying, but yeah, good. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Similar, just like you say, you want to wait, you know, but like if you want to wait for the embargo till the embargo's up, but this is just purely based off of them watching the video and not, you know, let's say they're just going to watch a review and base their purchase off of a review, not when a review is up or whatever, not based on the embargo, just when that review is up. They're going to base their purchase based off of a review. The reviews that have been released earlier than the reviews that are released later. I think, well, I guess it's the same thing. I guess it affects the customer more. Talking in circles. But yeah, I just wanted to have the conversation about that, because it was kind of like, it's just strange. Like, I don't feel like I could do that as an upcoming YouTuber trying to make waves and make reviews and informational videos. I don't feel like the embargo.
I think integrity is more important though than an embargo. You can always play the game. You can always weigh in on it, and you just have to figure out and find your voice. And because like if you start sacrificing integrity for early access, if you start sacrificing integrity for that, like, I think it's going to come across. I think eventually people are going to be like, well, he didn't make it to this part in the game, and he told me he recommended it, but it like 15, Final Fantasy 15 is a great example. Like, it's a really interesting, and they've since patched it, and also a day and date review for a game that gets updated for years. Also, it's we need to have a better format for that. But but with 15, like, you get a point where it's like, man, it gets super linear. It's like it's a whole different experience from what was previously there. Ooh, and so it's like, imagine if you never hit that linear part, and you're like, man, this game's great, characters great, bosses are great, great, and then people watching that, they're like, yeah, it's great up till what about this part? Oh, I never made it there. Wait, you never beat it? Nah, I stopped playing after 5 hours, and I put on my review. It's like, I bought it off of that. It's like, integrity, I think, is more important than any kind of, like, because then we could also even bring up the concept, like, do you feel like, are you pulling your punches? I know that's usually brought up a lot. Like, are you pulling your punches because somebody gave you early access? And I think that's honestly, who cares? Like, who cares? Because as long as the viewer knows the conditions in which you were given the game, they can decide for themselves if they think you're pulling your punches or not.
Right.
It doesn't matter. Like, even if you're like, that's my best friend and he made this game. Okay, well, tell people that that's your best friend and he made this game and you like it, or like whatever, or you don't like it. They'll make up their own mind. As long as you give them all the information, they can come to some kind of term, and they can challenge your integrity. But I think it's really that they're not challenging your integrity. They're trying to destroy your point because they disagree with it and they don't have a better argument. So if they can't counter like the argument that you're making for whether this is a good or a bad whatever, they'll try to just tear you down and say, oh, the reason why he says this is because, and so he has no integrity. He is not to be trusted, and so that's why they attack the person, because they can't actually argue articulately enough against the points that were made. So they attack the individual in that regards. And again, I think that's a lot to do because gaming is a very emotional, it's a very intimate experience. You have more intimate experiences with these characters than you do with the movie, because you are driving the force and the connection. You are stepping into that character and making the decisions and then experiencing the story.
Right.
And that's just what I think.
So, did you see that stuff that is going on with Angry Joe and I can't remember the website. What's the name of the website? I didn't write it down.
No, I haven't.
So, Reset Era, I think is it. Reset Era gaming website, I think is what it is. So like they banned Angry Joe and all his videos from the website because they said of his views of that was happening on Last of Us. Did you see his Last of Us 2 review? Mm-mm. So his Last of Us 2 review was just like, pretty much he was like, the gameplay and stuff was good and how they put the story together was bad. Pretty much how they had it linear. So I said it before he said it. Based off his review, I was like, if they had put, everybody's main problem is, it's DeathMonkeyXL here, and I just kind of had a brief spoiler moment in this section here. If you want to fast forward it a few minutes until it gets to the end of that, feel free to do so, but please stay for the rest of the conversation. Thank you. As your normal characters, and then you see one of the main characters die, and then you got to play the character that killed him. And then they go through like a flashback sequence where you're playing this character and you're seeing how they got to that point. And I'm saying, like, if they started off the game where you're playing as Abby when they were younger, and then, you know, had it caught up, and then somewhere in the middle, all that stuff happened, and then at the end you played as Abby again, it would probably make more sense because you'd have a connection to the person that you just end up hating. You know, because you instantly hate this person because they killed like your favorite character. But if you had a connection in the beginning before they killed your favorite character, it would put more of a it'd have been more conflicting for you as a player, because you're like, oh, I like this person. That's jacked up what they did to this person that I also liked. And so pretty much what he said in his review is that, like, how she was thrown in and they kind of disregarded Ellie and gave everything to Abby and stuff like that. That was pretty much his whole review. Like, I don't know what he gave. I think it was like a 6, something like that. But his main point for me in the review was he just didn't like the way the story was laid out. Like, it was written bad. But the gameplay and everything was good and fun. And somehow this got turned into an editor from GameSpot even said it when people were attacking the voice actor of Abby and editor.
Yeah, I saw the tweeter, the twits. I saw those twits.
Them tweeters
who were attacking her on Twitters.
So he said, like, you know, that wasn't cool. And then the GameSpot dude was like, "Oh, it's kind of like, that's funny coming from you, seeing that you have all this misogynistic stuff you added to the attack." But he never said anything bad about Abby as a character.
Yeah.
So, and then it went from there to the recent era saying, oh, he's banned on the forums for his views and misogynistic views and stuff like that. Then everybody's like, did you watch the video? So,
yeah, probably not.
So that's another thing that's part of the whole, that's why I was going in that whole, like, the, I guess, YouTube versus mainstream media thing, because that's where it seems to go to, like, where most of the YouTubers, I think Skilla was under embargo, but he said it in his video, but most of the YouTubers didn't take the embargo, didn't sign the embargo. They just went for the late response and played it how he played. Skilla did the embargo and still said, he didn't talk about those parts, but he still talked about those parts, like, in a different way. Like, so he still added those parts into his main review. But like Angry Joe and ACG, they waited and then put their review out and gave it the lower scores. And they seem to be more attacked. And I don't know, man. It just seems like, I don't know where I'm going with that. It just feels weird. It just feels weird.
It is a weird, like, I think there are many factors though. Like, I think people are frustrated, they're tired, they're home, you know, it's like you have this energy and then eventually you're like, well, I'm going to expend it in some way. And so I think it's just kind of a little bit of a powder keg, and I think any little thing can be frustrating. I
think the most frustrating is I don't understand why we're butting heads, right? Like, why is like IGN or GameSpot or any of these other CNET button heads with YouTubers, and why are YouTubers button heads with?
Because it comes down to money.
Because
it comes down to money. Like, it's YouTubers are taking views, are taking that mind share away from it, right? You know, it's like you have YouTube in and of itself is a little bit more intimate, you know, in terms of the relationship with like a community on YouTube, and it's one individual. And yeah, like, you know, there's different sides of it, because you have IGN, who's a whole network, and they've got bills to pay, people to pay, you know, content to continue to produce in this machine. So there is this sense that, like, yeah, like, you know, they do rely on that. So there's
IGN has, like,
question. I think it's a question of integrity, though. You know, people don't trust, like, many people haven't trusted IGN for a while based off of just like bad leadership and decisions. But ultimately, I think people don't like the takes that they make, and then they justify that IGN's corrupt because of whatever reason, you know, they feel like it makes the most sense.
Right. And I guess it seems like, too, a lot of those, since the whole, I hate to bring up, we'll call it the whole Gamergate thing happened too. There's a lot of things I feel like in the journalism side of it changed as far as how games are reviewed and looked at. You know, you'll see a lot more a lot more articles on the social aspects of a game, and that game actually, and that's what actually affects the review versus the game itself. So, like, we'll say, oh, I didn't like the way this certain class was treated in this game, even though the game story may be built around this world is messed up, this class is treated like this. In the world, they know it's wrong, but they'll still say in this game they treat the class like this, so it gets a lower score. And I think that added to a lot of people's dislike of that. But in the same breath, like a lot of the YouTube, a lot of the faster media YouTube ones that kind of put out news quick, like every day, are pulling articles from these websites to post their YouTube videos and getting mad when they get called out on it. So it's weird. It's just a weird, like your whole, and you try not to show any shade. Like your whole channel, people know who I'm talking about. To listen, your whole channel is based upon grabbing articles and going, in this article, this is what they said, and reading paragraphs from the article. You can't be mad when the site comes at you and goes, comes at you for anything really, because your channel is built upon the work of the writer of the other page. It's not like you're actually doing the work for it. So
well, a lot of people do that, right? So we've seen that on Twitch with YouTubers, where it's like Twitch streamers will watch YouTubers content and then react and stuff like that. So that's something that's interesting. It depends on the article, right? Because you publish an article, and if you're covering an article, like, are you linking to it? Are you giving credit, or are you taking credit? Because essentially what we see, at least whenever we do a link to an article, we've got metrics. It's like that boosts up the article.
Right.
It draws actually attention to it, and that becomes an interesting thing and a good thing for obviously the article itself, as opposed to like, well, nobody went and saw that article that so and so wrote, and so it just
depends on the video too. Because even if the article gets boosted, if it's a bad article and you link to it, or an unfavorable article and your video is unfavorable toward the article, and you link to it.
Everybody has the right to sit down and make commentary. It's like everybody has the right to sit down and say, like, this is a bad take or this is a good take.
Right. No, I agree with that. I don't have any issues with people saying that's a bad take or a good take. It's just that, you have people going to attack other articles, or attack the writer of the article for whatever reason because of how you delivered your message. You can say it's a bad take, but how you deliver saying it's a bad take makes a big difference in how people respond to it being a bad take, I think. On that aspect. So it's just something that you can say, oh, I don't want people to go and attack this person as much as you want, but if you're sitting there in your video attacking the person, then your audience is going to feel like they can also
that brings out like it's a whole mess of a thing, because it's like, because people, man, I don't even know how to deal with that. They're like, oh, I'm telling people not to go and attack, but then it's still
right, like
people are still going to interact with that in their own way,
That's what I'm saying. It's like how you deliver it, how you're delivering your disdain for the message or their bad take, your take on their bad take. It's always like attacking the person that had the bad take. Yeah. So it's never like, this is what the person said and this is why I disagree, and giving your reasons why you disagree or whatever. It's like, look at this type of person always having this type of thing to say about this type of subject. That's what we talk about, these type of people. You can always expect this from these people over here.
It's a hard thing with social media too, because it's so easy to dogpile. It's so easy to rush to judgment. It's so easy for us to forget the humanity and the individual. And you take that whole, like, all this situation with any of the drama, and you put everybody in the same room physically, and I think it becomes way more tenable. I think it becomes way more discussion oriented and understanding oriented. I think the veil of our anonymity gives a sense of, I think we have to increase and encourage more discourse, and like going above and beyond a normal level of respect, which is the opposite of, I think, the direction that social media tends to put us in. So it's much easier to retweet or to meme or to whatever online, because you're not dealing with any of the consequences.
Right.
I'm out. But if somebody's like, someone's sitting here trying to have a, like, hey, let's figure this out, let's work together. We don't have to always, like, not everybody's going to like everybody, but it's like, like if you're sitting here like, okay, we're in the same room. Like, yeah, he can punch me in the face. Like, if I'm just continually like just harassing him, there is a risk of a physical, like, retribution as opposed to now where it's like, all right, like, oh, I'm creating more emotional scars than I am actually like, right. Like any kind of thing like that. So I think that's the challenge and a problem we run into with social media.
So what do you think about the Oh, so you don't think the current state of game reviews are relevant anymore, and you feel like having the game club, your game club idea is the way to go, having a discussion.
It's hard because you're like, all of a sudden it's like, hey, let's get a bunch of people to do this one thing, and it's, you know, it's not like there's
everybody has to play the game. All right, beat it in this 1 week.
Right. And it's like, so like, what's the turnaround? What's that? Like, I don't find that tenable or reasonable.
That would be the only way to do it, though. So how would you manage to be able to do that?
That's why you see live streams. That's why live streams are growing in popularity. That's why you see more people having live stream NDAs. I think that's why you see more publishers moving to live streams. I think live streams and live content, you know, is more where people are pushing, as opposed to, you know, that, because it becomes that conversation. You can ask me in real time, hey, and I can tell you in real time what I'm experiencing, and then we can have a dialogue. So that's where I think all of it's going. Now, will traditional reviews go away? No, I think people will still put out reviews. There'll be people who still look for those reviews and appreciate those, and then that's just going to be where it's changing. But like, when you look at the next generation of gamers, those that, you know, like, you know, my niece and all like my nephew, they're watching the live streams. You know, they're not watching the reviews. They're not watching the curated content. They're watching the live stuff.
Channels like Jacksepticeye and Markiplier always grabbed attention towards game, gravitated people toward games.
Yeah, what are they playing? And then you want to be a part of the conversation in the community.
This is all I have on this topic here. I think I've drained the well. I've got my my frustrations out a little bit.
Feel a little bit better?
It's a little bit better.
Good.
What you got going on?
Primarily, I'm just PSO2 won't install anymore, and
PSO2 won't install anymore
on PC. So I'm probably going to go make a frustrated video.
Wait, you uninstalled it?
No, it uninstalled itself.
Let me check my PSO2. I turned it on, and it was fine when I first played it.
I'm just gonna play it on Xbox, you know, during the week. And
still
and just wait till the Steam release. And so that's just going to be what I'm probably going to film a video on that here in a little bit. And then let's see here. And then I'm going to do some, it's almost 3 Central. So after that, then I'm probably just going to work on a little bit more content for today, being that it's Wednesday. And then Thursday and Friday work on, you know, my programming work, just because it's kind of hard for me to start something this late in the afternoon. Yeah.
I understand that. I think I'm going to try to get a live stream going. I don't know. Maybe play some D2.
Nice, dude. What platform do you play on?
I've been playing on Steam.
Are we friends on D2 yet?
I think so. I don't know.
Cool. All right. Well, let's find out.
I'm in the guild, so. So there's that.
Well, on that note, like, is there anything else we want to talk about? Because I think I might just go knock out some more content, and then I'll just, you know, go hang out with the family.
Nope. That's all I got. That's all I got. Thanks for
man.
having a conversation with me. I appreciate it.
I love talking to you, dude. You're an awesome guy. Sub to this man. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. Man. So do that.
On Work to Game, Ginger Prime, Ginger
Gaming Radio.
Ginger Gaming Radio.
And I'm not talking about my new project, so I'll let you know when that's ready.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
All right, man. Peace out. Love you.